Allah Yamla Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakai Kodash. And double honors unto the elders and apostles, GMS, who do rule well, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful election out there still enduring in their faith, man. Start here. Wisdom of Solomon 12:1, it says, for thy incorruptible spirit is in all things, meaning the Lord, Yahweh, is an incorruptible spirit. He changes not, and he clearly is set forth, you know, you know, uh, he's clearly setting forth judgments every day, showing they should build, he should tear down, right? Um, Wisdom of Solomon 12 and 2, it says, for thou chasten them little by little that offend. That's a key, little by little that offend, and warnest them by putting them in remembrance wherein they have offended, man, that leaving their wickedness they may believe on thee, O Lord, man. And this is, the Lord, these judgments that go out every day, man. These are little by little chastenings, man. He says his judgments, he's known in his judgments, and the judges every day. People die every day. People are being born every day, man. But it's only a matter of time for the Lord, he ups the ante, and he shows you, why he is to be feared, man. This is Wisdom of Solomon 12 and 3. It says, for it was thy will to destroy. It was thy will to destroy by the hands of our fathers both those of those old inhabitants of the Holy Land, man. And this is the people, whenever he set up Adam. Remember, Adam had the falling away, and then the flood came. Noah had his son Abraham, grew up at around Iraq area, modern day. It's known as Iraq of today, but then he was, land where Abraham grew up at the most, where he was from. You know, he was sending letters to Egypt, but traveling from there back to the outskirts of the Holy Land. But pretty much, bringing it all, long story short, man, this is the point though, man. Whom thou hatest for doing the odious works of witchcraft, man, and wicked sacrifices after the flood. Then you had that portion of pretty much civilization being revamped back into the earth. So all those descendants of Noah, then Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the different descendants of the inhabitants of the earth, man, which will, you know, pretty much, restart civilization, right? And he destroyed them for doing the most odious works of witchcraft, which is what they're doing today, which is the wicked people who are the Edomites. The Lord returns in the land. What are they doing? The most odious works of witchcraft. And what is witchcraft, man? We get into witchcraft, man. We're gonna get into it, man. Witchcraft, idol worship, so on and so forth. All of those things, man. How they pretty much have used witchcraft, idol worship, and philosophies and transferred that from kingdom to kingdom to kingdom. Because witchcraft now is just it's psyoptic. It's a psyoptic on the mind. It's to get you to pretty much gradually follow into their agenda without understanding that you're gradually following into their agenda. Using psyoptic governments on the left and the right side, using psyoptic governments, because the earth been given into the hands of the wicked, man. Let's get that. What we actually war against, man. Ephesians. Ephesians 6 and 11 and 12. It says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers against the rulers of darkness of this world and against spiritual wickedness in high places, man. And you got, psyoptic governments pretty much controlling the narrative of the world, man, controlling what goes into your food, controlling what you eat, controlling, even, manipulating the lingo of languages, what's appropriate to say and what's not appropriate to say. All of that is through psyops and psyoptic governments, psyoptic, paid off uh, informers or paid off plumbers, what we call them, or paid off people with the system, or people that just, believe in the system, that they don't really fully understand. They're just dead men and women walking, man. They're zombies, pretty much. Witchcraft. European witchcraft, it says, can be traced back to classical antiquity. It says, when a magic and religion were closely entwined during the pagan era of ancient Rome. And, like, you heard, elders, talk about the Club of Rome, the Bilderbergs, the Georgia Guidestones. Even if you really you look into the Georgia Guidestones, man, literally they had, you go into, the Club of Rome and these different uh, secret psyoptic organizations, I call them, man, because they were all a part of the agenda, man. They understood the agenda from afar off using witchcraft. And that's how we know that there is a spiritual demon, Satan, as well, because I mean, this is an agenda. They understand, certain things of the spiritual realm, and they definitely understand. But really, what they've done is they've taken all the philosophies, all of what we've taught them, all what we allowed them, that we got from our Lord and our Savior, man, or our God, man. He showed us these things. We showed it to them, and it pretty much, we started to fall into their ways, because then we started to want to be like them and all this other thing. What did Jake do? You got gradually psyoped into assimilating into their ways, man. Anyways, Club of Rome and the Georgia Guidestones also, agreed that the earth was overly populated. Anyways, it says there were laws against harmful magic after Christianization. The medieval Catholic Church began to see witchcraft as a blend of black magic and apostasy, involving a pact with the devil, and that's what it was, man. And that's why they attach those things. The black, they attach you to black. You're not black. You're brown. You're different shades of brown, man. That's what olives are. Olives are different shades of brown. You got black olives, but naturally olives are different shades of brown. That was the point of us being olive skin. You got light olive, you got brown olive, you got dark olives. You know, and technically green. Even if you have green olives, green is the closest. Is transferable to brown. It's one of the colors you're gonna use to transfer to make brown, man. I think it's red and green. Could be wrong. Anyways, it says, let me just get to you. It says during the most early period, witch hunts became, widespread in Europe, partly fueled by religious tensions, social anxieties. It says economic upheaval, and European belief in witchcraft gradually dwindled during and after the Age of Enlightenment. So it didn't really dwindle; it just transferred. That's the point of what I'm making. It didn't really dwindle. They just found, because that's what this devil does, is trial and error. He's a trial and error type of thinker, or that's why you blow shit up enough and keep blowing it up until you get to the core. He's, stupid. He's very destructive, very dumb. You know, but yeah, as far as experimenting on children, experimenting on animals, experimenting on the earth, and then the whole time you're doing all these different experiments, these illegal experiments, you're causing a lot of harm to the environment, to the people. To the people whose lands you've stolen. You don't even want to recompense them for that. So you pillaged lands, you stolen lands, for the sake of your experiments, and your agenda, and trying to, control the earth, man. But at the end of the day, you're pretty much outsmarting yourself. No, let's get this real quick because that's all you've done. You do a diligent search, but it does. At the end of the day, it's gonna come to naught. It's all gonna come to naught, man. Psalm 64 and 6, man. They search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search, both the inward thought of every one of them. And the heart is deep, man. It says, but God shall shoot at them with an arrow, and suddenly shall they be wounded. So shall they make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall fall away, man. And pretty much that's what you're looking at right now, man. The Lord is reversing those curses, you know. So all the curses, all the witchcraft they've put on us over the years, the psyops, right? The different laws and decrees, because those are witchcraft. That's witchcraft too. That's witchcraft within their own government on already oppressed people. So now they starting to feel it. And they're looking at it like, well, we don't give a damn about 2/3 of our people, the elites of Esau, Edom, man, or anybody else, But at the end of the day, they still going to be caught, you know. So those, the 2/3, of our people, and then Esau, Edom's going to feel it, as well. You low end Edomites, you're going to feel it as well, you know. And then you other heathen, you're going to fucking feel it too. And then even you elite heathen, man, you're going to feel it too, man. Because the Lord is, at the end of the day, you touched. Let's get this real quick, man. You all made Confederate, were all Confederate against the Lord's people, man. Read out of NLT. Don't you hear the uproar of your enemies? It said, don't you see that your arrogant enemies? So Psalm 83 and 2. Don't you see that your arrogant enemies are rising up? It said they devise crafty schemes against your people. It said they conspire against your precious ones, man. Come, they say, let us wipe out Israel as a nation. We will destroy the very memory of its existence. It said, yes, this was their unanimous decision. They signed a treaty as allies against you, man. They signed a treaty, man. So they pretty much all you other nations, you chose to make war with the Most High. And now, you didn't choose to. The Lord put the spirit on you to come after us and come after the children, and you pretty much work with this devil, this two-headed beast, this democracy, right, over the course of time. And now, we get this. It says you see them, these Edomites, Ishmaelites, Moabites, Hagarenes, Gibeonites, Ammonites, Amalekites, Philistia, Tyre, Assyria has joined them too, and is allied with the descendants of Lot. And the descendants of Lot was, the so-called giants. You know, your renowned men or whatever, man. They all were Confederate, man, and even 2/3 of our own people, man. You know, let's get this real quick. Oops. Because Esau is looking at that, he's a damn two-faced, conniving devil, man. You looking at it like, well, I'm screwed, so all you gonna be screwed with me too. That's why he got all those nukes and all those nuclear weapons and all. Man, he knows that the top elite knows who they are. They know who the God of the universe is, man. This is Obadiah 1. Obadiah 1 and 2. It says, behold, I made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. And how are you greatly despised? Through unrighteous dealings and decrees and riches gotten by deceit, injuries, right? Raping, robbing, and pillaging villages, you know, taking coins and putting your people's faces or psyoptic government's faces on coins, and then using these different coins to manipulate, the transaction around the world through using a central bank and forcing people to, either get on board with that central banking, right? Wherever you set up your insurance, your colonization, practices, wherever you set up shop at, pretty much. America got over what 300 different. Maybe I could be wrong. There's definitely about 250 different embassies around the whole world, man. You know, that's a lot of spots, man. You know, on every sea, the whore that sits on many waters, man. You use your witchcraft, your science, you know, your manipulation of, I guess you could say, your power, because Earth has been given into the hand of the wicked, man. Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covers the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he, man? He covered the face of the judges thereof, man. You don't see these people, man. But at the end of the day, the Lord sees these people. They use the pyramid, cabal pyramid, structure of leadership. But at the end of the day, you're not going to see who's really, really in charge, right? Until you do. And that's when, that's what the Lord is going to do. He's going to, eventually bring these people out. He's already pulling the skirt up over all their governments, over all these, wherever they're set up at. Now that's why they got the little bunkers built. You know, some of them might already be in there, truth be told. But at the end of the day, we understand that the earth has been given into the hands of the wicked. Who's the wicked? Esau, Edom, man. Because before the Lord comes back, these people will be in charge. And let's go back. This, I wanted to get this too, because I'm dealing with the age of enlightenment, man. Because we talk about it a lot, but think to get more of an understanding on like the gradual process of, just how these different thought patterns came about, man, and practices came about. As it says, the age of enlightenment, also the age of reason and enlightenment, was a European intellectual psychological movement that flourished primarily in the 18th century. Now, this also happens to be during the time when the doctrine of discovery came into play, primarily in the 18th century, characterized by the reason of, or was amplified, I should say, by reason of empirical evidence and scientific method. And that's why you see it says the age of enlightenment promoted ideas of individual liberty, man. And so pretty much do as thou wilt, man. And religious tolerance and progress and natural rights. Thinkers advocated constitutional government, the separation of a church and state, and the application of a rational principle, and the application of rational principle in social and political reform, which we understand that the rationality of these devils is very barbaric, man. You know, you done bombed a country twice. You allow drugs into the certain neighborhoods as long as it benefited your agenda, right? As long as it hurt certain people, and now then when it start to affect Edomites, then everybody's supposed to care and shit now. Man, fuck you niggas, you know. But it's a scientific method, man. Oh, sincerely, because we see it a lot, man. If you've been paying attention now, it's starting to show you, they coming out and showing who they really are, man. And they're gonna do that more and more and more as they gradually, start to be able to feel like they want. When he about to feel his belly, that's when the Lord's gonna rain sudden destruction on his ass, man. The scientific method is an empirical method for acquiring knowledge that is being referred to while doing scientific science since at least 17th century. It said historically it was developed through centuries of ancient and medieval, through the series, through centuries of from the ancient and medieval world, man. So pretty much all this knowledge that they've acquired into this scientific kingdom that they, through age of enlightenment, even now, even with modern science, it's been agenda based because what did it just say? Centuries, uh, centuries from the ancient and medieval world, man. So when you talk about centuries from the ancient and medieval world, they took practices in the ancient world is ancient Egypt, ancient Babylon. In the medieval world comes, after, I guess you could say after 70 AD, you know. And all they've done is they've taken these different philosophies and they've taken, the truth and they mixed it with their own lies for, their agenda and really trying to get back, trying to control the earth, man. He was a sore loser, man. Trying to get that birthright back, you know. Anyways, yeah, man, it's and in doing so, or how they done that, man. Well, let's get it. Isaiah 56, man. And let's start at verse 12 and skip over to Isaiah 57. It says, come, they say, it says, I will fetch wine, and we will fill ourselves with strong drink, and tomorrow shall be as this day, and much more abundant. So they pretty much, they set up a system where they fill you with strong drink, and because they filled you with it, a lot of their own people have taken part in that too. They didn't, count for, Jake to wake up like we are today, because really, this is all about way of the spirit, man. You see. And now that has the nation standing up on their feet. That has them pretty much making moves now. Because we can't have you niggas waking up, man. We know who you are. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, this is what's going to institute, that those draconian measures, man. The truth coming out, the truth of them, what they doing, what they do behind closed doors coming out, and they're being called out on these things. But and it's getting harder and harder for them to hide. So you got whistleblowers, certain people coming out. It's harder and harder for them to hide what they clearly been doing or getting away with for years. You know, this is Isaiah 57:1. It says, "The righteous perish, and no man layeth to heart, man. And the merciful man are taken away, and none consider that the righteous is taken from the evil to come, man." And that's true, man. You know, people die every day, man. But sometimes you never know. The Lord sometimes He could take an individual, man. If they die in the truth, man, that's double that's double the blessing. But sometimes the Lord could take a certain individual because he He has mercy on them. Now He doesn't have mercy on everybody. He has even 2/3 of our own people, man. It says, "He shall enter into peace; they shall rest in their beds, one waking in his uprightness," man. Essentially, that's Him saying, pulling you out of the fire, you know, the fire that's coming. But draw near hither, ye sons of sorceress, the seed of the adulterer and the whore, man, in whom ye do sport yourselves, against whom ye do make even. So let me read that NLT this morning. So whom do you mock? making faces and sticking out your tongues. It says, you children of sinners and liars. And that's pretty much that's the devil, man. The so called white man, Esau, Edom, man, the red man. He's not white, he's red. It says you worship idols with great passion beneath oak trees, every green tree. It says you sacrifice your children down in the valleys, among the rocks, jagged rocks in the cliffs, man. So they was doing this shit then. You know, you got to think, man. That, like the brother was going into yesterday, the New York camp, man. Women was how they was eating, you know, seasoning their own baby's feet, seasoning their own baby's, body parts, man. Eating that shit like chicken, man. That shit's foul, man. But this all was going on, man. This is stuff that was really going on. This is really going to happen, you know. So it's behoove you to prepare your mind and actually repent back to the Lord. Now, before this stuff, everything's peachy key, everything looks normal. But I'm telling you, man, when the Lord brings chaos, you never know. And it's something you'll know that the Lord did it when He does it, man. And it says, and it's like I was saying, the idols that they worship, meaning, they're sacrificing, the children of Molech, cause them to go through fire and, do all kind of evil shit, man. Say your gods are the smooth stones in the valleys. Says you worship them with liquid offerings and grain offerings. They, not I, are your inheritance, man. Do you think all this makes me happy? So pretty much, they think they're thinking that whatever they was doing, they were under the illusion. And this was through different philosophies and learning from different heathen as well. And making deals with heathen and learning their ways and wanting to be like them. And those same spirits coming back through Jake, right? So this is why, man. He said, "Do you think that all this makes me happy?" And the Lord was pretty much telling him, "No, he doesn't delight in anything that the heathens do. That's why He only dealt with us, because we wasn't supposed to be like them." It says, "You have committed adultery on every high mountain. You have worshipped idols, and you have been unfaithful to me, man." And adultery, that's spiritual adultery, man. Spiritual philosophy. Pretty much, you forsaking the Lord's way in the mix of, even in the mix of adversity, man. In the mix of a 1 second, 3 second decision you got to make. Do you believe in the Lord or not? And you say no. That's forsaking the Lord, man. You know. And in these times, you want to have it in your spirit that the Heavenly Father, man, is true and sincere, man. Because rebellion is a sin unto witchcraft, man. You see what I'm saying? So the point behind rebellion is a sin unto witchcraft, and always will be. I understand. I did type in, said, I typed in the methods of science used in various different civilizations, man. It said the method of science have evolved from early human civilizations, human observation, of nature to systematic approaches. It says with civilizations like ancient Greece, emphasizing, rational inquiry and logic, while others, like ancient Egypt, focus on practical applications of mathematics. During the Islamic Golden Age, the scientific revolution, it says emphasis shifted the empirical evidence, into experimentation. It says key methods include observation, experimentation, deduction, induction, logical reasoning. It says used differently across cultures to understand the natural world and solve problems, man. Mesopotamia and Egypt developed practical applications of mathematics, surveying, and construction. It says, but lack systematic. It's just different, ways. You get to see the not really, if you can envision it. You envisioning, what it was like in ancient Mesopotamian region compared to now, as far as their practical applications with the world that they lived in versus the practical application of the world we live in. They didn't have iPads, iPhones, or DoorDash or any of that shit, man. So they had to use a system, right? They would have to use a system in order to uh, make life acceptable or convenient, not just for them, but for the environment where they stayed. They understood, the environment matters. They understood territory matters. And you look at these different, these other civilizations, you can do research on them on your own. I'm just showing you, through these different civilizations, experimentation and trial and error, right? But also you have the earth, which has recorded, literally everything. So you have pottery, you have ancient pottery, you have the ancient stories and hieroglyphs, you have, ancient stories that's written on walls, artifacts, such on, so on, so on and so forth, man. There's no denying, that the people that we come from, the language, so on and so forth, man, it's sacred, man. It's not something to be played, to be toiled with, because it's been manipulated over time through witchcraft and heathen, plotting against the true people, plotting against the Lord's true people. Like, they know who we are, but see, through witchcraft and psyoptic governments, man, Age of Enlightenment councils, Council of Nicaea, and all these different councils, and what they call them, secret councils, which would be your knight, your Mason, your Freemason secret councils, Islamic secret councils, your Muslim secret councils, all of those, your Moorish secret councils, you know, we was among some of those too. But see, the thing is, there's no secrets from the Lord, man. You know, that's why when you understand, say these are they which have no guile, it's like, well, what can you tell somebody who doesn't give a damn about anything? you know, what can you try to manipulate? You can't really manipulate them. Can't really control them. You can't really know. We pretty much have been brought out of. The Lord is pretty much awoken you and is bringing you out of that psyoptic way of thinking of what you've been taught, whether it be from the west or the east of this modern day era. He's trying to bring you back to him, truth be told, to his ways, his philosophies, but, by way of the spirit, which, causes you to, you're going to feel certain things. You're going to, you're going to, by nature, you're going to be different. Let's get that. By nature, you're just going to be different, bro, because he's bringing us back. This is Exodus 19 and 5, man. It says, now therefore, if ye obey my voice indeed, man, and keep my commandments. How's he speaking in this modern day? He's speaking through his prophets, man. And they're telling you what you need to do by way of the Spirit. If you're doing it, just keep doing it. Keep the faith, man. Keep my covenant. It says, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, man. For all the earth is mine. It says, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom, a priest, and a holy nation. It says, these are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. So this was a promise from the Lord, man. This was a promise from the Lord, man. Because at the end of the day, Salakia, at the end of the day, man, coming out, the Lord understands, I mean, we they polluted us in a very degrading, it's nasty, evil way, man. We've been pretty much destroyed in the worst way, man. Let's get this real quick, man. It's Isaiah 59. There it is, yo, Isaiah 59:15. It says, yeah, truth faileth, and he that departed from evil maketh himself a prey. And the Lord saw it, and it displeased him that there was no judgment, man. So the Lord seeing, he's watching these things. He's seeing, he's watching you devils, continue to think that your enterprise is, you're doing the right thing, but he's really he's setting you up to be destroyed from the inside out, slowly but surely, man. But he's watching you, make you think that you're gonna get away with it. Like you say, you're just gonna ride off in the sunset and that's it, man. Nah, it don't work like that, man. You gotta pay. The elite stuff you gotta pay too. It says, and he saw that there was no man. It says, and wondered that there was no intercessor. Therefore, his arm brought salvation unto him. His righteousness is sustained him, man. And that's what you see going on right now, man. The Lord's, placing you under these curses, these same curses that we've been under. They're starting to feel it, man. So the same witchcraft that they put us under in their system, pretty much they've been snared by their own hands, man. They gotta deal with, the fact that you gotta eat this trashy ass food too. So it's killing your body. Your baby's gonna have cancer too now. You're gonna have problems with your children are gonna have problems, neurological problems, and putting drugs in your neighborhood too. You know, you gotta deal with the fact that you gotta work. Your women gotta work too. They're poor, and they gotta work too. You gotta deal with the fact that this system, college system is all that shit is fucking fake. It's all psyoptic government. It's all psyoptic, man, to keep you in debt. You're gonna have to learn that. If you got multiple children, and father, you can't take care of them. In this household, he has to learn that you're gonna learn that nah, it's not so easy, and that's just the low end because it really is a separation from the rich and the poor, man. It's getting rid of the middle class, obviously. So now you're starting all that winning, all them storms you was winning. It's not, man. Now you're starting to see that these people have always been against us, man. You know, but whether you're rich or you're poor, it's your mindset. What you really have to is where you really have to really focus on, man. As far as coming out of this world, because that's where the devil is going to attack the most, man. The war over your mind, man. This is Romans 12 and 1, or 12 and 2, man. And be not conformed to this world. This is the modern day Roman Empire. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is good and acceptable in the perfect will of God. Because when he wrote this, they were, the Roman Empire was still prominent and thriving, you know, and this is the revival of Rome. So when he wrote this, it was to the people, to pretty much the believers, I should say, trying to institute them to get out, come out of that way of thinking, that way of, the Roman philosophy, pretty much, investing themselves into it. Because back then they probably thought that Rome was going to last forever, you know, and then it failed, right? It's like now you think America's just going to last forever, and then it just starts to fall, man. When that first blow hits, that first blow is gonna shut. It's gonna open a lot of eyes, man. And this is why the Lord is calling you now. It's why the rebukes go out. It's why the rebukes go out. The judgments the brothers talk about, elders and apostles talk about, that go out daily. The different prophecies is pretty much popping up off the page, man. This is all it's all spiritual, it's all real, man. Hosea 6:1, man. It says, "Come, let us return to the Lord Yahweh, for he hath torn, and he will heal us, man. He hath smitten, and he will bind us. After 2 days, he will revive us, and on the third day, he will raise us up, and we will live in his sight, man." And the Lord talks about the 3 days and a half, man. We're coming to that 3 days and a half, man. You know, This is us, us putting on Yahweh Shai, it's us putting on, the cup of suffering once again, even in the midst of our enemies. Now they think that they won. They actually, under the illusion that the Lord is dealing with them, man. But you gotta understand, man. The Lord use their own witchcraft to trap them, to snare them as well. So anything that this devil does is pretty much going to snare him in the long run. Anything he does is going to snare him because you're under the curse and heathen too, especially when you come against the true people, man. Anything you do against any of the true people, Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua is dealing with, just know, the Lord is watching. He is going to, remember, he said it brings him pleasure to recompense our enemies, man. If they're already starting to feel, certain of the curses, man, you don't think he's gonna, for you that's been diligent, that's been faithful to him, you know, that's not being rebellious, as a sin under witchcraft, you actually, moving in the fear of the Lord, eating your bread, with caution like you're supposed to, right? And Ezekiel warns us about that because we really do have to eat our defiled bread with caution. But then again, we go through things as well because, you know, we get attacked by spirits, we get attacked by people, spirits that they got spirits on them and shit. Man, it's a fight, but you gotta put on the armor, man. I'm in that right there, man. I think that got to the point, man. Put on the armor. We're surrounded by witchcraft, man. We're surrounded by witchcraft. We're surrounded by philosophies and energies that have been transferred over time into this modern day psyoptic way of thinking. These governments psyoptic way of psyoping you into believing in or following their agenda. Pretty much, not even their philosophy. It's just their agenda. Because at the end of all of this, it's all about control, man. Control and controlling, how much you can eat, how much you can take. It's really just about being God, the birthright, man. They'll never get that because they wasn't. You're not of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You wasn't the chosen people, so you devils, you already lost. We got the victory. Call halal, Yom La, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem Rakah, Quadash. Shalom to the hopeful election.